The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Hundreds of species bowed to its power. Thousands of worlds paid tribute to its throne. No one had ever said no to the Empire and survived to tell the tale. That was about to change. Admiral Vakran stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Eternal Glory, he was a Draxian, a species known for their scaled skin and fierce warrior culture. Behind him stretched a fleet of 200 warships. The pride of the Imperial Navy, today they would claim a new sector of space. Just as they had done 1,000 times before, the target was unremarkable. A quiet region on the edge of explored space, filled with yellow stars and rocky planets. The Empire's scouts had reported no signs of advanced civilization, just some old beacons floating in the void. Perfect for expansion. "Admiral, we are approaching the sector boundary," his navigation officer reported. The officer was a queller, an insect-like species with multiple eyes and quick reflexes. "Excellent. Prepare to enter and begin surveying operations," Vakran ordered. He felt the familiar thrill of conquest. Another sector for the Empire, another achievement for his record. "Sir, the beacons are broadcasting something," the communications officer said. She was human-looking, a species called the Ultran who had joined the Empire 3 centuries ago. "It appears to be a warning in multiple languages." "Display it," Vakran said with amusement. Primitive warnings were common. Every backwater system thought they could scare off the Empire. With ancient threats, the message appeared on the screen in clear. Galactic Standard, Terran space, do not enter, final warning. Vakran laughed. His officers joined in. Terrans? No one had heard of them. They were probably extinct, leaving behind automated beacons from a forgotten age. "Ignore it. All ships proceed forward," he commanded. The fleet crossed the invisible boundary marked by the beacons. For a moment, nothing happened. Vakran felt vindicated. Just another empty threat from a dead civilization. Then every alarm on every ship began screaming at once. "Unknown energy signatures detected," the sensor officer shouted. "They are everywhere, sir." Surrounding the entire fleet. "Impossible," Vakran snapped. "Nothing can hide from our sensors. Find the source." Before anyone could respond, a voice cut through every communication channel. It was calm, measured, and spoke in perfect galactic standard with an accent no one recognized. "This is Terran Command. You have entered restricted space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning." Vakran felt his scales bristle with rage. A single voice challenging the might of the Empire? Unthinkable. "This is Admiral Vakran of the Galactic Empire. You will identify yourself and surrender any territorial claims to Imperial authority. Failure to comply will result in the seizure of your systems." Silence answered him for 3 long seconds. Then the voice spoke again, with the same unsettling calm. "You were warned, Admiral." The lead destroyer on the fleet's right flank vanished. One moment it was there on sensors, the next it simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, no distress call. "Just gone. Report." Vakran shouted, his confidence cracking. "Unknown, sir. The ship just disappeared from all tracking systems. We cannot locate any wreckage or emergency beacons," the sensor officer said, his voice rising in panic. Another destroyer disappeared. Then a cruiser. Then 2 frigates simultaneously. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter." Vakran ordered, but his commands seemed meaningless. Ships vanished regardless of their movements, their speed, or their defensive postures. The invisible enemy was picking them off like insects. Vakran's crew worked frantically, trying to identify the threat. The sensors caught glimpses of something moving between the ships. Sleek shapes that shouldn't be able to move at those speeds? Energy signatures that violated every known law of physics. Weapons that seemed to erase matter rather than destroy it. Full retreat. All ships, fall back across the border immediately. Vakran finally ordered, his pride shattered. The fleet turned and ran. Ships pushed their engines beyond safety limits, desperate to escape the invisible nightmare hunting them. More vessels disappeared as they fled. The weapons, whatever they were, showed no mercy. Then, as suddenly as it began, the attack stopped. The surviving ships crossed back over the boundary marked by the warning beacons, and the enemy ceased fire instantly. No pursuit, no final strikes, just silence. Vakrin counted his losses. 97 ships gone. Nearly half his fleet erased in less than 10 minutes. He had no explanation, no understanding of what had happened. Only fear. The journey back to Imperial space was the longest of Vakrin's life. He knew what awaited him. Failure of this magnitude meant disgrace, possibly execution. But he had to report what happened. The Empire needed to know about this threat. The High Council of the Galactic Empire met in their Grand Chamber on the capital world. 12 species, representing the most powerful civilizations in the Empire, sat in judgment. Vakrin stood before them, his uniform stripped of rank insignia, and told his story. Most of the council members laughed at first. A hidden civilization that destroyed half a fleet without showing themselves? Impossible. Vakrin must have led his ships into a spatial anomaly or made some catastrophic tactical error, but then they reviewed the sensor logs. The laughter died. The recordings showed ships moving faster than anything the Empire had ever built. Weapons that fired no visible projectiles but made their targets simply cease to exist. Defensive technologies that seemed to predict attacks before they happened. And most disturbing of all, the voice that had warned them was not a recording or an AI. It was a living being, speaking with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how powerful they were. "This cannot stand," declared Councillor Thrain, an elderly member of the founding species. "The Empire does not retreat. We do not accept limitations from unknown species. We must respond." "But how?" asked Councillor Jessic, a more cautious voice. "We do not understand their technology. We do not know their numbers or their capabilities. Rushing in again would be foolish." The debate continued for hours. Some wanted immediate military action. Others urged caution and intelligence gathering. Finally, they reached a compromise. "We will send an envoy," announced the council speaker. "Ambassador Tellerus will approach their border under diplomatic protocols. If they are truly a civilization and not just automated defenses, they will negotiate. All civilized species negotiate." Ambassador Tellerus was the Empire's greatest diplomat. He was a Silverian, a tall humanoid species known for their silver skin and persuasive abilities. He had brought 63 worlds into the Empire peacefully, convincing them that joining was in their best interest. If anyone could negotiate with these mysterious Terrans, it was him. Tellerus prepared his diplomatic vessel. The Harmony's voice? It was small, unarmed, and broadcast peace intentions on every frequency. He selected 2 advisors to accompany him, both experts in first contact protocols. As his ship approached the border, Tellerus felt confident. He had never failed in a negotiation. These Terrans, whoever they were, would soon understand the benefits of joining the Galactic Empire. His ship crossed the boundary marked by the warning beacons. Immediately, his communications lit up with an incoming transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. Tellerus had seen humans before. They were part of several species in the Empire, but this one was different. Her eyes held knowledge and power that unsettled him. "I am Captain Elizabeth Vorn of Terran Command." "Ambassador Tellerus, we know who you are." "We know what you want." "The answer is no. Leave now, or discover why we built this border." The transmission ended abruptly. Tellerus sat in stunned silence. He had been dismissed before he could even begin his practiced speech. These Terrans were not like any species he had encountered before. For the first time in his career, Ambassador Tellerus wondered if negotiation was even possible. And back in Imperial space, military planners began preparing for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Ambassador Tellerus did not turn back. Despite the cold dismissal from Captain Vorn, he knew his mission was too important to abandon after one rejection. The future of Imperial expansion, perhaps the future of the Empire itself, depended on understanding these Terrans. "Ambassador, respectfully, we should retreat and request additional instructions," his security advisor said. Commander Pylix was a Korthan, a species bred for combat and protection. His forearms tensed with obvious concern. "No," Tellers replied calmly. "They did not destroy us on sight. That means they can be reasoned with. Continue broadcasting our peaceful intentions and request formal diplomatic contact." His communications officer, a young Ultron named Bevix, worked her console nervously. "Sending on all channels, Ambassador. Emphasizing our unarmed status and desire for dialogue." Long minutes passed. The diplomatic vessel drifted in space just beyond the border, waiting. Tellers used the time to study everything they knew about this region, which was frustratingly little. The sector had been unexplored for centuries, marked as low priority by Imperial scouts. Then their sensors detected something approaching. Fast. "Unknown vessel incoming," Pilix announced, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm. Though what good a pistol would do against a starship, no one knew. The Terran ship seemed to materialize out of empty space. One moment their sensors showed nothing. The next, a sleek vessel appeared directly ahead of them. It was smaller than the Harmony's voice, but radiated power signatures that made their ship's reactor look like a candle next to a star. Captain Vorn's face appeared on screen again. This time Tellerus got a better look at her. She appeared middle-aged by human standards, with short dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her uniform was simple, functional, without the decorative elements most military forces favored. "Ambassador Tellerus, you are persistent. Very well, you may follow us to a designated location where discussions can occur. You will bring only 2 advisors. Any deviation from our flight path will result in immediate termination of this contact. Do you understand?" "I understand and agree to your terms," Tellerus replied smoothly. "May I ask where we are going?" "You may ask," Vorn said, then ended the transmission. Pilix looked at Tellerus with clear concern. "Ambassador, this could be a trap." "Everything in diplomacy is potentially a trap, Commander. That is why we must be wise rather than fearful," Tellerus replied. He had faced hostile negotiations before, though something about these Terrans made him uneasy in ways he could not quite explain. The Terran ship moved forward, and the Harmony's voice followed. They traveled for 3 hours through Terran space. Tellerus used the time to observe everything. The region was not empty as Imperial scouts had reported. His sensors detected faint traces of activity, evidence of ships and stations hidden by technology that made them nearly invisible. How are they masking their presence so effectively? Bevix wondered aloud. Our sensors should detect anything producing energy. They are allowing us to detect these traces, Tellerus realized. They want us to know they are more numerous than we thought. It is a message. Finally, they arrived at a massive orbital station. As they approached, the station's camouflage systems deactivated, revealing its true scale. Tellerus felt his throat go dry. The station was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest Imperial orbital fortress. And this was just one installation. Around the station, hundreds of ships moved in precise formations. Tellerus recognized none of the designs, but he did not need to understand their construction to recognize their purpose. These were warships, each one radiating the same impossible power signatures as the escort vessel. "By the old gods," Pilix whispered. "If they have more stations like this, they could challenge the entire empire." Tellerus said nothing, but he was thinking the same thing. How had a civilization this advanced remained hidden? How long had they been here? They docked with the station under strict guidance. Tellerus selected Pilix and his political advisor, Netrim, to accompany him. Natrim was a queller like Admiral Vakran's navigation officer, chosen for her analytical mind and knowledge of Imperial law. The interior of the station was as impressive as its exterior. Clean, efficient, and clearly built by a civilization that understood advanced technology intimately. They were escorted by silent human guards in black armor that seemed more sophisticated than anything. Imperial Special Forces wore the conference room was simple. A long table, chairs adjusted for their different physiologies, and walls that could display information. Waiting for them was a human man who introduced himself as Director Marcus Webb. He was older than Vorn, perhaps in his 60s, with gray hair and an expression that revealed nothing. "Ambassador Tellerus, Welcome to Terran space. I appreciate your courage in coming here, Webb said, gesturing for them to sit. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Director, Tellerus replied, falling smoothly into his diplomatic patterns. I represent the Galactic Empire and have come to establish relations between our peoples. I know exactly who and what you represent, Ambassador, Webb said calmly. We have been watching the Empire for a very long time. This statement caught Tellerus off guard, but he recovered quickly. Then, the Empire offers prosperity, security, and the chance to be part of something greater than any single species. I know the Empire offers assimilation disguised as partnership, Webb replied. I know that of the 743 species in your empire, only 12 joined willingly without military pressure or economic coercion. I know that unique cultural elements are systematically erased in favor of imperial standards. I know that your empire is very good at making conquered peoples believe they chose their fate. Tellerus felt Natrum shift uncomfortably beside him. These were uncomfortable truths, ones the Empire preferred not to discuss in diplomatic settings. All large civilizations require some standardization for efficient operation, Tellerus said carefully. But the Empire respects the fundamental nature of each species. Ambassador, please do not insult my intelligence with the standard propaganda, Webb said, his tone still calm but with an edge now. Let me ask you a direct question. In your empire's 10,000-year history, how many species have you conquered versus how many have joined willingly after being offered a genuine choice to remain independent? The silence stretched long. Tellerus could not answer honestly without admitting the Empire's true nature. He could not lie because Webb clearly already knew the truth. I see, Webb said. Let me share some information with you, Ambassador. We have been observing your empire for 207 years. We watched you absorb the Kelvin Confederation. We watched you economically strangle the Prevan Alliance until they had no choice but to join. We watched you destroy the Zephan resistance and call it peacekeeping. We have detailed records of 63 civilizations being consumed by the Empire while we remained hidden. Hidden? Tellerus asked. Why would an advanced civilization hide? Because we learned what happens when you do not hide, Webb replied. 500 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself. We fought wars that scarred our homeworld. We created weapons capable of ending all life on Earth. We came within minutes of extinction multiple times. Those who survived made a decision. Never again would humanity be vulnerable. Never again would we allow outside forces to threaten our existence. Webb stood and activated the wall displays. Images appeared showing Earth's history. Nuclear explosions, dead cities, environmental collapse. Then images of recovery, of humanity rebuilding, of technology advancing at an impossible rate. We rebuilt our world and ourselves, Webb continued. We advanced our technology not through gradual progress, but through dedicated, unified effort spanning generations. We had one goal: ensure humanity's survival against any possible threat. And then we discovered we were not alone in the universe. You found the Empire, Tellerus said. We found the Empire, Webb confirmed. And we saw what you did to species less advanced than yourselves. We made another decision. We would become powerful enough that you could never threaten us, and we would remain hidden until we achieved that goal. You succeeded, Pilot said quietly, speaking for the first time. Your technology surpasses ours significantly. In some areas, yes, Webb agreed. In others, we are merely equal. But we have advantages you do not. Unity of purpose, a population that remembers the cost of failure, and a willingness to do whatever is necessary to protect ourselves. Tellerus leaned forward. Director Webb, I understand your concerns. But isolation is not sustainable. Eventually, we would have found you. Is it not better to establish relations now, peacefully? The Empire can offer you much. What can you offer that we do not already have? Webb asked. Resources? We have enough. Technology? Yours is inferior. Security? The only threat we face comes from you. Culture? We prefer our own. Trade? We are self-sufficient. What remains, Ambassador? Partnership, Tellerus said. The chance to be part of something larger. Humanity need not stand alone against the universe. Humanity does not stand alone, Webb replied. We have each other. Billions of humans united in common purpose. That is enough. So you will simply remain here, isolated, forever? Natram asked. If necessary, yes, Webb said. We have no desire to conquer others. We have no need to expand endlessly. We are content with our territory and our sovereignty. All we ask is that the Empire respects our border and leaves us in peace. You know the Empire cannot simply ignore your existence now, Tellerus said quietly. We have shown that your technology is superior. The High Council will not accept a potential threat on their border. Then the High Council will learn a difficult lesson, Webb replied. We do not want war, Ambassador. But if the Empire forces us to choose between our principles and our survival, we will choose survival every time. And your Empire will not survive that encounter. The words were spoken calmly, as simple fact rather than threat. Somehow that made them more chilling. Before Tellerus could respond, Webb received a notification on a small device. His expression darkened. It appears our conversation has been overtaken by events, Webb said. One of your generals has launched planet-killer weapons toward our worlds. 6 doomsday devices are currently crossing into Terran space. Tellerus felt his blood freeze. That is impossible. The Council would never authorize such an attack without negotiation. Your General Thrax did not wait for authorization, Webb replied. He is broadcasting demands that we surrender or watch our worlds die. Pylix stood abruptly. Director Webb, I know nothing of this attack. This is not sanctioned Imperial policy. I believe you, Commander, Webb said. Then impossibly he smiled. Do not worry, Ambassador. The situation is under control. In fact, your general has done us a favor. He has given us the perfect opportunity to demonstrate exactly why you should leave us alone. Tellerus did not understand how Webb could be so calm with planet-killer weapons approaching. But as he looked into the director's eyes, he realized something terrifying. Webb was not worried because humanity had already won. General Thrax stood in the command center of the Imperial Dreadnought Unstoppable Will and watched his planet-killer weapons cross into Terran space. Each weapon was the size of a small moon, carrying enough destructive power to crack a planet's crust and boil its oceans. They were the Empire's ultimate deterrent, banned by ancient treaties but maintained in secret for situations. Exactly like this, he had launched them without authorization from the High Council. In his view, the Council had grown weak, too willing to negotiate with inferiors. Someone had to show strength, to remind the galaxy that the Empire did not accept limitations. Sir, the weapons are proceeding on course, his tactical officer reported. Estimated time to first target, 23 minutes. Excellent, Thrax replied. He was a Corthan like Commander Pylix, but where Pylix served as a protector, Thrax saw himself as a warrior. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest, and his eyes gleamed with anticipation. Broadcast my demands across all frequencies. His message was simple. The Terrans would surrender their technology and submit to Imperial authority, or he would destroy every human world one by one. They had 1 hour to comply. Across Imperial space, billions watched the broadcast in shock. Some cheered, believing Thrax was showing proper Imperial strength. Others were horrified, knowing that using planet killers would brand the Empire as genocidal monsters. The High Council erupted in chaos, sending urgent messages to Thrax to stand down. He ignored them all. Meanwhile, at the Terran orbital station, Ambassador Tellerus watched the same display with growing horror. Director Webb stood beside him, still unnervingly calm. Director, you must understand, this is not official Imperial policy, Tellerus said desperately. General Thrax is acting independently. The Council will stop him, will they? Webb asked mildly. From what we observe, your Council is currently arguing about whether to support him or condemn him. That is the problem with empires built on conquest, Ambassador. The warriors eventually stop listening to the politicians. You must defend yourselves, Tellerus urged. Whatever weapons you have, use them now before those devices reach your worlds. Oh, we will, Webb replied. But not in the way you expect. Watch. The display changed to show the 6 planet-killer weapons from multiple angles. They were massive, ancient devices from the early days of the Empire, covered in armor plating that could withstand direct hits from fleet weapons. Each one moved through space on its predetermined course, unstoppable by conventional means. Then they simply stopped moving, not slowed, not damaged, just frozen in space as if suspended in invisible ice. Tellerus watched in amazement as targeting beams from unseen Terran installations locked onto each weapon. The massive devices hung motionless despite their engines still firing at full power. How is that possible? Natrum breathed. Those weapons mass billions of tons. No tractor beam technology can hold them. You are correct, Webb said. We are not using tractor beams. We are using localized gravitational manipulation. Essentially, we have created tiny artificial gravity wells around each weapon. They can fire their engines all they want, but they are going nowhere. On the display, the weapons remained frozen for exactly 60 seconds, as if to demonstrate complete control. Then impossibly, they began moving backward. Not turning around, simply reversing course along the exact path they had traveled. You are sending them back? Tellerus asked. Not exactly, Webb replied with that same slight smile. We are sending them somewhere more appropriate. General Thrayax watched his command center erupt in confusion as his planet killers reversed course. Every attempt to regain control failed. The weapons were no longer responding to his commands. What is happening? He roared, Restore control immediately! Sir, we have no control, his technical officer reported, fear clear in her voice. The weapons have been completely hijacked. They are responding to external commands. Then destroy them, Thrayax ordered. Fire all weapons. Do not let them return here. The Unstoppable Will and the supporting fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic projectiles, all targeted at the retreating planet killers. The weapons should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, every single shot missed. Beams curved away as if deflected by invisible shields. Missiles lost lock and detonated harmlessly in empty space. Kinetic rounds simply vanished before reaching their targets. Impossible, Thrayax whispered. His confidence was cracking. For the first time in his long military career, he faced an enemy he could not understand or fight. The 6 planet-killer weapons traveled for 3 hours, passing through Terran space and emerging at 6 different locations in Imperial territory. Each one positioned itself in orbit above a major Imperial military installation. Not civilian worlds, Tellerus noted. The Terrans were making a point but not committing mass murder. For exactly 1 hour, the weapons orbited their targets. Every sensor in the Empire watched. Every military analyst understood the message. Humanity could have destroyed those installations at any moment. They could have killed billions. Instead, they simply demonstrated their capability. Then, one by one, the planet-killer weapons disintegrated. Not exploding, just breaking down into their component atoms and dispersing into space. Centuries of Imperial weapons technology, some of the most dangerous devices ever created, simply ceased to exist. Captain Vorn's voice broadcast across every communication channel in the sector. Ambassador Tellerus listened along with billions of Imperial citizens. General Thrayax, you have crossed a line that should never be crossed. You attempted genocide for political gain. You launched weapons designed to murder billions of innocent people. We could have allowed those weapons to reach your installations. We could have turned them around and sent them to Imperial worlds. We chose not to because we are not like you. She paused, letting that sink in. However, we will not tolerate such attacks. Your fleet will now see what we have been showing you all along. We have been watching. We have been waiting. And we have been everywhere. Across Imperial space, something impossible happened. Around every major Imperial world, fleets of human ships appeared. Thousands of vessels, all decloaking simultaneously. They had been there the entire time, hidden in plain sight, Capable of striking at any moment, Admiral Vakrin, still imprisoned aboard his captured flagship in Terran space, was brought to a viewing screen. He watched as human ships revealed themselves around his homeworld. The implications were staggering. If humanity could hide fleets near the Empire's most important worlds, then nowhere was safe. "Do you understand now, Admiral?" Captain Vorn asked him directly. "We could have destroyed the Empire at any time. We did not want to. We do not want to rule you or conquer you. We simply want to be left alone." Vakrin could not speak. His pride, his confidence, everything he believed about Imperial superiority, shattered in that moment. On the unstoppable will, General Thrayax received a direct communication from Terran Command. It was not Captain Vorn this time, but Director Webb himself. "General, your recklessness could have started a war that would have ended your empire. I want you to understand something very clearly. We have been inside your empire for decades. Our people, using advanced biotechnology, have walked your streets, worked in your facilities, observed your military planning. We know everything about you. Your strategies, your weaknesses, your secret installations, everything." Webb leaned forward, his calm demeanor replaced by cold steel. "We gave you a warning at our border. You ignored it. We captured your fleet without killing anyone. You responded by trying to commit genocide. Now you will face consequences." Thrayax tried to respond, to threaten, to bluster, but his voice would not work. Fear, true fear, had gripped him for the first time. "Your fleet will remain where it is," Webb continued. "Do not attempt to approach Terran space again. Do not attempt to send more weapons. Do not make the mistake of thinking our restraint is weakness. It is not, it is choice. But if forced to choose between our principles and our survival, General, we will choose survival. And you will not survive that choice." The communication ended. Thrayax stood frozen, his forearms trembling slightly. Around him, his crew looked to him for orders, but he had none to give. Back at the Terran station, Ambassador Tellerus processed everything he had witnessed. A single species, isolated and hidden, had just demonstrated they could threaten the entire Galactic Empire. Not just threaten, dominate. The display of power was overwhelming, but what shocked him more was the restraint. Humanity could have ended the Empire today. They chose not to. "Director Webb," Tellerus said carefully, "what happens now?" Webb turned to face him fully. "Now, Ambassador, you return to your High Council. You tell them exactly what you have seen. You explain that humanity wants peace, genuine peace built on mutual respect of sovereignty. We will not expand beyond our current borders. We will not interfere in imperial affairs. But in exchange, the Empire must recognize our territory and leave us alone. And if the Council refuses?" Tellerus asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we stop being patient," Webb replied simply. "We have shown you we can reach anywhere in your empire. We have shown you we can neutralize your most powerful weapons. We have shown you that we have been watching for years without you knowing. If the Empire continues to view us as a threat to be eliminated rather than neighbors to be respected, we will dismantle the Empire. Not through conquest, but through liberation. We will free the species you have absorbed, scatter your military forces, and reduce your territory to a fraction of its current size." "You would break apart 10,000 years of civilization?" Natrum asked, shocked. "We would break apart 10,000 years of enforced unity masquerading as civilization," Webb corrected. "The species in your empire did not all choose to join. Many would prefer independence. We would give them that choice." Tellerus understood the full scope of the threat now. The Empire's greatest fear was not destruction, but dissolution. If the conquered species believed they could be free, if they had a powerful ally willing to protect them, the Empire would fracture from within. "You are giving us 1 week," Tellerus said. It was not a question. 7 days, Webb confirmed. "That is enough time for your council to make a decision. Choose peace and coexistence, or choose to see if you can survive a war with an enemy you do not understand. We hope you choose wisely." As Tellerus prepared to return to Imperial space, he looked back at the massive Terran station one final time. Somewhere out there, hidden from sensors and waiting patiently, was a civilization that had turned isolation into strength. He wondered if the Empire, built on expansion and conquest, could ever truly understand such beings. The journey back to Imperial space was the longest of Ambassador Telleris's career. He spent the hours reviewing everything he had witnessed, preparing his report for the High Council. He knew what awaited him. The Council would be divided, angry, and desperate for answers he was not sure he could provide. Commander Pilot sat across from him in the small diplomatic vessel, his forearms folded in thought. "Ambassador, may I speak freely?" "Of course, Commander." "What we saw changes everything," Pilot said quietly. "I am a warrior. I have trained my entire life for combat. But the Terrans did not fight like warriors. They fought like gods. They simply decided what would happen, and it happened. How can the Empire stand against such power?" "Perhaps we should not try," Telleris replied. It was a dangerous thought, bordering on treason, but he was too tired for political games. "Perhaps we should accept their terms and learn to coexist." Natrum looked up from her datapad. "The Council will never accept that, Ambassador. It would set a precedent. If one species can defy the Empire and succeed, others will try. The Empire's unity depends on the belief that resistance is impossible." "Then the Empire's unity is built on a lie?" Telleris said. "And lies eventually collapse under their own weight." They arrived at the capital world to find it in chaos. The High Council had been in continuous session since the broadcast of humanity's display. Half the Empire had seen human ships appear near their worlds. Fear and uncertainty spread through populations that had always believed in Imperial invincibility. Telleris was summoned immediately. The council chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species, all demanding answers. As he entered, the noise died down. Every eye turned to him. "Ambassador Telleris," Speaker Thrain began, his elderly voice carrying the weight of authority, "you will provide a complete report of your encounter with these Terrans. Leave nothing out." For 3 hours, Telleris spoke. He described the orbital station, the technology, the conversation with Director Webb, and the display of force that followed. He presented sensor data, recordings, everything his ship had captured. When he finished, silence filled the chamber. Finally, Counselor Jessic spoke. "Ambassador, in your professional opinion, can the Empire defeat these humans in open warfare?" Telleris took a deep breath. His answer would shape the Empire's response. "No, Counselor. I do not believe we can. Their technology is superior in every category we observed. More importantly, they have been observing us for over 2 centuries. They know our tactics, our strategies, our weaknesses. We know almost nothing about them." Unacceptable," roared Counselor Brecht, a Draxian like Admiral Vakrin. "The Empire does not bow to threats. We have faced powerful enemies before and prevailed. With respect, Counselor, you have never faced an enemy like this," Telleris replied. "They do not want conquest. They do not want tribute. They simply want to be left alone. That makes them more dangerous, not less. They have no reason to negotiate, no needs we can exploit, no desires we can manipulate." The debate raged for hours. Military counselors demanded immediate action while diplomatic voices urged caution. The Empire was splitting between those who could accept a limitation on their power and those who could not. Finally, Speaker Thrain called for order. "Ambassador Telleris, you have spoken with these humans directly. Do you believe they would be willing to share information about how they achieved such technological advancement? Understanding their methods might allow us to match their capabilities." Telleris hesitated. It was a reasonable question, but something about it made him uncomfortable. Before he could answer, his communication device activated with an urgent priority message. It was coded for his eyes only, marked as coming from Terran Command. He excused himself and read the message in a secure room. It was from Director Webb. "Ambassador Telleris, we know the Council will ask about our technological advancement. We are willing to provide answers, but only to you personally. Return to our border alone. We will explain everything. This offer expires in 12 hours. Telleris stared at the message. Why would the Terrans offer this information now? What were they hoping to achieve? And why speak only to him? He made a decision that would change everything. He returned to the council and reported the message. As expected, they ordered him to accept immediately. Some counselors suspected a trap, but the lure of understanding Terran technology was too strong to resist. 10 hours later, Tellerus found himself crossing the border again, this time truly alone. No advisors, no guards, just a single diplomatic shuttle. It felt like walking into the unknown with no safety line. He was not taken to the orbital station this time. Instead, a Terran escort guided him to a planetary surface. As they descended through the atmosphere, Tellerus saw a world that took his breath away. Earth. He had seen thousands of worlds in his career, but this one was different. Massive cities blended seamlessly with natural environments. Rivers ran clean through urban centers. Forests grew between towering structures. The planet looked both highly technological and perfectly natural. As if humanity had learned to live with their world rather than dominating it, the shuttle landed in what appeared to be a diplomatic complex in a city the pilot identified as Geneva. Tellerus was escorted through buildings that showcased human art, history, and culture. He saw images of Earth's past, the wars and destruction Webb had mentioned, and the slow recovery that followed. Finally, he was brought to a deep underground facility. The security was intense but not threatening. They were protecting something important, he realized. Something they did not want anyone else to see. Director Webb waited for him in a conference room that looked like it had not changed in centuries. Ambassador Tellerus, thank you for coming alone as requested. What I'm about to show you must remain between us for now. The High Council will learn eventually, but not yet. Why the secrecy? Tellerus asked. Because what I am about to tell you will change how you view the galaxy itself, Webb replied. And once you know, you cannot unknow it. Webb activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing Earth 500 years ago, devastated by war. Then images of humanity's recovery, the development of new technologies, the unification of the planet under a common purpose. I told you we rebuilt our civilization with a singular focus on survival, Webb began. What I did not tell you is how we achieved such rapid advancement. The answer is both simple and complex. We discovered something the Empire never did. We learned to unlock the full potential of human consciousness. Images showed laboratories, scientists working with strange equipment, volunteers undergoing procedures that looked like nothing Tellerus had ever seen. We developed what we call quantum consciousness technology, Webb continued. It allows human minds to temporarily link together in networks, pooling our cognitive abilities. 1,000 humans thinking as one can solve problems exponentially faster than 1,000 humans thinking separately. We accelerated our technological development not through computers or AI, but through enhanced human collaboration. That should not be possible, Tellerus said. Individual consciousness cannot merge without destroying the individual. You are correct, which is why we do not merge consciousness, Webb explained. We link them. Each person retains their individuality, but can access the thoughts and expertise of others in the network. Imagine having the knowledge of 1,000 specialists available instantly. That is what we achieved. The implications were staggering. The Empire relied on slow, bureaucratic processes, with information flowing through layers of administration. Humanity had created a system where knowledge spread instantly across their entire civilization. But that alone does not explain your military superiority, Tellerus said. No, it does not, Webb agreed. His expression grew serious. There is more, and this is the part you must keep secret for now. When we began exploring our local space, we found ruins. Ancient installations on dead worlds, technology buried beneath the surface of moons, artifacts floating in the void. They were millions of years old, left by a civilization that existed long before any current species evolved. The precursors, Tellerus whispered. Legends spoke of ancient races that had vanished, but the Empire had never found concrete proof. We call them that as well, Webb said. We spent 2 centuries excavating their ruins, studying their technology, translating their records. And we learned a terrifying truth, Ambassador. The precursors destroyed themselves in a galactic war, not because they were evil or irrational, but because they followed the same path every advanced civilization seems to follow. They expanded, they conquered, they consumed, and eventually they had nowhere left to go but into conflict with each other. Images showed dead worlds, shattered habitats, and massive debris fields that could only be the remains of ancient battles on a galactic scale. The precursors left a warning, Webb continued. They documented the cycle they observed. Civilizations rise, develop faster than light travel, encounter others, and begin competing for resources. Eventually, expansion becomes the purpose rather than a means. Conquest becomes the culture, and then the conflicts escalate until nothing remains. The Empire is following that path, Tellerus said, understanding dawning. Yes, Webb confirmed. Every expanding empire does. It is not malice, Ambassador. It is the nature of growth without limits. The precursors watched dozens of civilizations fall into this trap before it consumed them as well. Their final act, the last thing they did before their own extinction, was to hide technology that might allow one future civilization to break the cycle. And humanity found it, Tellerus breathed. We found it, Webb agreed. Technology so advanced it seems like magic. Weapons that manipulate fundamental forces of the universe. Defenses that make conventional attacks meaningless. And most importantly, knowledge of how civilizations fall. The precursors left us a gift, Ambassador. The gift of understanding what not to become. That is why you built the border, Tellerus said. Not just to defend yourselves, but to avoid becoming like them. Exactly, Webb said. We have the power to conquer the galaxy if we choose. The technology we recovered, combined with our quantum consciousness networks, makes us potentially unstoppable. But we looked at the ruins of the precursors and asked ourselves a question. What is the point of ruling a galaxy if the act of ruling it destroys what makes us human? He paused, letting Tellerus absorb this. So we made a choice. We would become powerful enough that no one could threaten us, but we would not expand beyond our current territory. We would prove that a civilization can survive without endless conquest. We would break the cycle the precursors described. But the Empire will not simply leave you alone now, Tellerus said. They know you exist. They have seen your power. Some will fear you, others will covet your technology. The pressure to act will be overwhelming. I know, Webb said sadly. That is why I brought you here, Ambassador. You need to understand what is at stake. If the Empire forces us to abandon our principles, if you make us choose between isolation and survival, we will choose survival. And we have the precursor technology to do what they did. We can end civilizations? We would rather not. We desperately want another option. What option? Tellerus asked. True coexistence, Webb replied. Not the Empire's version where everyone eventually becomes part of your culture. Real coexistence, where different civilizations respect each other's sovereignty and learn to exist without competition. The precursors failed to achieve this. We want to succeed where they failed. But we cannot do it alone. We need the Empire to change. The Empire has existed for 10,000 years, Tellerus said. It does not change easily. Then perhaps it is time for it to start, Webb suggested. Ambassador, I am trusting you with information that could be weaponized against us. I'm telling you our greatest secrets because I believe you are wise enough to understand their implications. Return to your council. Tell them what you have learned. Make them understand that this is not about winning or losing, but about survival of everyone. The cycle must be broken, or eventually we will all end up like the precursors, extinct, forgotten, a warning for the next civilizations to ignore. Before Tellerus could respond, an alarm sounded. Webb's expression changed instantly to one of cold fury. What is it? Tellerus asked. General Thrayax, Webb said through gritted teeth. He has launched another attack, this time with a hidden fleet he kept in reserve. They are targeting our research stations and civilian colonies. Webb looked at Tellerus with eyes that held genuine sadness. I am sorry, Ambassador. We tried. We really tried to find another way. But your general has made the choice for us. Now you will see what happens when you force humanity to abandon restraint. General Thrayax had learned nothing from his first failure. If anything, defeat had made him more determined to prove Imperial superiority. He had spent the past days gathering every ship he could find, calling in favors from old military allies, and assembling a fleet in secret locations scattered across Imperial space. 300 warships now jumped toward Terran space simultaneously from multiple directions. This time there would be no warnings, no negotiations, no restraint. He would strike at civilian targets, research stations, anything that would hurt humanity and force them to surrender their technology. All ships, maintain communication silence until we reach the targets, he ordered. The element of surprise is essential. His tactical officer, a new one since the last had requested reassignment after the Planet Killer incident, looked uncertain. Sir, command has ordered us to stand down. The High Council is negotiating with the Terrans. The High Council is weak, Thrayax snarled. I am saving the Empire from their cowardice. History will remember me as the one who brought these humans to heel. His fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in Terran space. Weapons armed and targeting systems locked on the nearest human installations. For a brief moment, Thrayax felt vindicated. They had achieved complete surprise. The Terran stations showed no signs of alert, no defensive postures, nothing. Then every ship in his fleet simply stopped moving, not slowed, not damaged, completely frozen in space. Engines fired at full power, but the ships remained motionless, as if caught in invisible hands. Thrayax hammered his control console in rage. Report! What is happening? Unknown, sir. Every system is functional, but we cannot move. Something is holding us in place. A voice filled every communication channel in the fleet. It was Captain Vorn, and this time her calm demeanor was gone, replaced by cold anger. General Thrayax, you were warned. You were shown mercy. You were given every opportunity to choose peace. You threw it all away. Your attack on civilian targets has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Now you will learn what it means to face humanity without restraint. You cannot hold 300 ships indefinitely, Thrayax shouted back. Release us or we will destroy your installations when we break free. You will not break free, General. But your ships will not be harmed. Your crews will survive? We are not monsters like you. However, you personally will learn a lesson. Thrayax felt his ship's systems activate without his commands. The viewing screens changed to show locations throughout Imperial space. What he saw made his blood run cold. Human ships, thousands of them, were appearing around major Imperial military bases. Not attacking? Just present, visible, demonstrating that they had been able to reach these locations undetected and could have struck at any time. More images showed human operatives revealing themselves across the Empire. People who had lived and worked in Imperial society for years, indistinguishable from the Empire's own citizens, were broadcasting their true identities. Scientists in research facilities, workers in shipyards, even staff members in government buildings. For 200 years we have been among you, Vorn's voice continued. We learned your languages, understood your cultures, observed your military capabilities. We did this not to conquer you, but to ensure you could never threaten us without us knowing. General Thrayax, you see only a fraction of our presence. We could have destroyed the Empire at any point in the last century. We chose not to because we believed coexistence was possible. The images shifted to show Terran space itself. The empty sector the Empire had thought uninhabited was anything but. Hundreds of stations, thousands of ships, colonies on dozens of worlds. All of it had been hidden by technology the Empire could not detect. You see our true strength now, Vorn said. Not because we want to intimidate you, but because you have forced our hand. Ambassador Tellerus is currently on Earth learning the truth about humanity and the warnings we discovered from the precursors. Director Webb is explaining why we chose isolation over expansion. While they discuss the possibility of peace, you attack our civilians. You prove everything we feared about the Empire. Thrayax tried to shut off the transmission, but his controls would not respond. He was forced to watch as every species in the Empire saw the truth about humanity's capabilities on Earth. Ambassador Tellerus stood beside Director Webb in the command center, watching the situation unfold. Director, please do not let this escalate into total war. General Thrayax does not represent the Empire's official position. I know that, Ambassador, Webb replied, his voice tired. But actions have consequences. Your general attacked civilian targets. He intended to kill researchers, families, people who never threatened him. We cannot ignore that. If we do, others will think we are weak and try the same. What will you do to him? Tellerus asked, dreading the answer. We will teach him what isolation truly means, Webb said. In space, General Thrayax's fleet began moving again. But not under his control. The ships, still fully functional, were being transported somewhere. The journey lasted for hours, and when they finally stopped, Thrayax looked at the screens in horror. His fleet hung in orbit above a dead world. A precursor world, Webb's voice informed them, where an ancient civilization had destroyed itself. The planet's surface was scarred with the remnants of weapons that had cracked continents. Massive orbital debris marked where habitats once thrived. And everywhere, the silence of extinction. This is what awaits the galaxy if the cycle continues, Webb explained. The precursors were more advanced than any current civilization. They had technology beyond even ours. And they still destroyed themselves through endless expansion and conflict. General Thrayax, you and your fleet will remain here for 1 year. We have stripped your weapons but left your life support and basic systems. Supply ships will keep you alive. You will have 1 year to look at this dead world and think about what you tried to do. You cannot imprison Imperial military forces, Thrayax raged. This is an act of war. No, General. Your attack on our civilians was an act of war. This is an act of education, Webb replied. In 1 year, you will be returned to Imperial space. Perhaps by then you will understand that strength without wisdom leads only to ruins like the ones below you. The transmission ended. Thrayax sat in silence, staring at the dead world below. For the first time in his life he felt true fear. Not of death, but of irrelevance. Of being forgotten like the civilization that once lived on that planet across the Empire. The response to these events was mixed. Some military leaders called for total war against humanity, arguing that the Empire's honor demanded it. Others, seeing the futility of fighting an enemy so far ahead in technology, urged peace. Civilian populations were terrified. Having seen how easily humans could reach any Imperial world, the High Council met in emergency session. Ambassador Tellerus, returned from Earth, presented his full report. He told them about the precursors, about the cycle of expansion and destruction, about humanity's choice to break that cycle. He shared Director Webb's offer, genuine coexistence. Based on mutual respect of sovereignty, the debate lasted for 3 days. Every argument was made, every option explored. Finally, Speaker Thrain called for a vote on whether to accept humanity's terms. The vote was closer than many expected. Out of 12 council members, 7 voted to accept the terms. 5 voted to continue military pressure, believing the Empire could eventually match Terran technology. But the majority held. A formal declaration was drafted and broadcast across the Empire and into Terran space. The Galactic Empire officially recognized Terran space as sovereign territory. No Imperial ships would approach within 10 light years of the border. Humanity's right to isolation would be respected. In exchange, humanity agreed not to expand beyond their current territories and to cease their covert observation operations within Imperial space. They would maintain their defensive posture but would not interfere in Imperial affairs. Captain Vorn received the declaration aboard her ship at the border. She read it carefully, analyzing every word for loopholes or hidden clauses. Finally, she forwarded it to Director Webb with a simple note. It could work if they mean it. Webb reviewed the declaration on Earth and made his decision. Accept it. Release Admiral Vakrin and his fleet. Begin withdrawing our deep cover operatives from Imperial space. The observation network can stay dormant as verification, but active operations cease immediately. And General Thrax? Vorn asked. He serves his full year, Webb said firmly. Some lessons must be learned completely. The captured Imperial fleets were released over the following weeks. Ships and crews returned home, carrying stories of human technology and restraint. Admiral Vakran, humbled by his experience, became an unexpected advocate for peace, arguing that fighting humanity was suicide, and cooperation was the only logical path, but not everyone accepted the new reality. A faction of military hardliners, remnants of Thrax's supporters, began planning ways to secretly develop weapons that could match Terran capabilities. They would honor the letter of the peace agreement while violating its spirit. Humanity, of course, knew about these efforts. Their remaining observation network detected the secret weapons programs within weeks. Director Webb faced a choice: expose the programs and embarrass the Empire, or allow them to continue and monitor the results. He chose patience. Let them try, he told his advisors. They will learn that matching our technology requires not just resources, but a fundamental change in how they think about civilization. That cannot be forced. It must be chosen. Months passed. The border between Imperial and Terran space became a permanent fixture of galactic politics. No ships crossed it, no incidents occurred. Slowly, both sides began to accept the new normal. Ambassador Tellerus was appointed as the Empire's official liaison to humanity, a position that involved no actual contact but maintained diplomatic channels. He found himself thinking often about his conversations with Director Webb, about the precursors and their warnings, about the cycle that humanity was trying to break. One day, he received an unexpected message from Earth. It was from Webb himself, marked personal and unofficial. Ambassador, you asked what we want? I have a better answer now. We want the Empire to succeed without becoming like the precursors. We want you to find a way to exist that does not require endless expansion. We know it is possible because we have done it. Our offer stands. If the Empire ever truly wants to learn how to break the cycle, we will help. Not through conquest or assimilation, but through genuine sharing of knowledge. But that choice must come from you. We will wait. Tellerus read the message 3 times. It was an extraordinary offer, one that would never be accepted in his lifetime. The Empire was too old, too set in its ways, too proud to admit it needed to change. But perhaps in time, future generations would be wiser. He looked at a star map on his wall. The border was clearly marked, a glowing line separating 2 very different approaches to civilization. On one side, the vast galactic empire with its thousands of worlds and hundreds of species, growing slowly, consuming constantly. On the other side, humanity's smaller territory, intensely defended, deliberately limited. 2 philosophies separated by an invisible line in the stars, both claiming to have the answer to survival. Only time would tell which approach led to a future and which led to ruins like those of the precursors. For now, the line held. And perhaps Tellerus thought that was enough. 1 year after General Thrax's imprisonment, his fleet was released as promised. The general returned to Imperial space a changed being. His aggression was gone, replaced by a haunted look. He had spent a year staring at a dead world, thinking about what might have been if his attack had succeeded, if humanity had retaliated as he would have. He retired from military service immediately and never spoke publicly about his experience. The border remained. The peace held. And across the galaxy, other civilizations who had heard about humanity began to wonder, was isolation truly possible? Could a civilization become power? Fool without becoming predatory? The questions had no easy answers, but for the first time in galactic history, someone was trying to find out. On Earth, Director Webb stood in the same Geneva facility where he had met with Tellerus. He looked up at the stars through a massive window and allowed himself a moment of hope. They had proven it was possible to defend without conquering, to be powerful without being cruel, to survive without dominating others. The precursors had failed. Their cycle had consumed them. but humanity had learned from their mistakes. The border was not just a defensive line. It was a statement. It was proof that another way was possible, whether the rest of the galaxy would learn that lesson remained to be seen. But the line in the stars would hold, and humanity would wait patiently behind it, hoping that someday others would understand. The story of the Terran border spread across the galaxy. Some species saw it as weakness, others as wisdom. But everyone agreed on one thing: humanity had changed the rules of galactic politics forever. You could no longer assume that advanced civilizations would expand endlessly. You could no longer assume that power meant conquest. The border held. The peace endured. And somewhere in the vast emptiness between stars, the ruins of the precursors remained silent. The warning finally heard by those who came after. Two civilizations, separated by choice rather than distance, learned to coexist without consuming each other. It was not perfect. It was not easy. But it was possible, and that possibility, more than any weapon or technology, was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy.